Yo, my junk 1998 Tahoe 5.7 vortec with the spider injectors. I gotta get this thing ready for winter because this is my winter beater. It's looking pretty ragged around the edges. That's how we take care of that around here. I'm gonna leave that. I think it looks pretty cool. It's like bleeding aluminum oxide. And of course, with a truck like this, you gotta get a beautiful Stop Humanity sticker from this wonderful YouTube channel called Crime Pays and Botany Doesn't. But seriously, that's not why I'm here. I pulled this thing out of its summer slumber, and when I hit the gas, it starts bucking and jerking and misfiring like crazy, and it smells like fuel, like it's running rich. And it only happens when it's cold, too. When it warms up, it seems to run okay. It idles fine. I hit the gas. Sometimes it bogs out, but it sounds pretty good right now. It bogs a little bit. There, I heard a little backfire. And then if I just do a brake stand, I'll put it in drive with my foot on the brake. It's popping out of the intake and backfiring like crazy. I got my misfire counter too. It's pulling misfires all over the place. And then it idles, and it's fine. Short-term fuel trim is no help at all when it's cold because, there it goes. Oxygen sensors had to start working. It's starting to subtract fuel right away. It's negative. Once it runs for a little while, it'll stabilize and kind of zero out. So whenever it's negative, it means it's subtracting fuel, so it thinks it's a rich condition. If this thing had a vacuum leak or something, it'd be running really, really positive because there'd be too much air, so it'd have to add fuel to make up for it. I got a fuel pressure test port right there on the fuel line. And I notice right now it's at 55 pounds, which is, it's kind of okay for an idle. I hit the throttle though, and it should go up to about 60 to 65 pounds. So this fuel pump's running really weak. I'm just gonna go tackle that because I know this fuel pressure's not right. If this gets down to 50 pounds or 48 pounds, it won't even run. I know it doesn't have a fuel pressure regulator problem either because it does hold really good fuel pressure. I can leave it sit here all day long and it'll just sit there at 55 pounds. There's a fuel pressure regulator underneath this upper intake manifold. And if that leaked down, then I'd know there'd be a problem. And it can cause a rich condition when you got a fuel pressure regulator that's leaking because it just starts dumping fuel down the intake. And then it's got to subtract fuel to make up for it. And one of the tricks with this, the problem is, the reason why it's running rich and you think that it's getting too much fuel is because if these run too lean, your fuel injectors aren't going to work right. It's going to spit a little bit of fuel and it's not going to be enough to actually fire in the cylinder, and it causes it to backfire through the intake. Same thing happens with other, like, I don't know, I've had the same things happen with Harley Davidsons and stuff, and the biggest reason why is because it's getting too much air. And basically when it gets too much air and not enough fuel, when you go wide open throttle and it's not dumping enough fuel down the engine, it can't produce a flame front. And when it can't produce a flame front, the flame doesn't burn, and then all of that excess fuel that doesn't burn goes down into your catalytic converters, and your oxygen sensors get fooled and tricked, and it thinks that it's running a rich condition because the fuel's not burning. if that makes any sense to you. So it seems like it's a rich condition, but it's really not. It's an overly lean condition, and what's coming out of your tailpipe is excessive fuel from your engine not being able to produce a flame front, if that makes any sense. So anyways, I'm just going to tackle this fuel pump. I also had a problem with this distributor. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a problem, but this distributor was all wore out. I knew that about 3 years ago, and I kept running it because it ran fine with this loose distributor. And like this tab right here was turned counterclockwise all the way up against the intake manifold so it could have the correct timing in it because it was so loose and wore out. And somebody actually put an old style distributor hold down in it so they could actually turn the distributor more than what the factory would allow, because the factory hold down for this has a couple of tabs that are really long, and there's like a square right here that keeps you from turning this distributor too much. So somebody put that on to try to make it work, and it worked for a long time, but I figured I better replace that just in case it's got a distributor problem from the camshaft sensor. All this is a camshaft sensor in a distributor that drives the oil pump. I mean, it's really not that complicated of a thing. So I replaced that anyways, and I still have the same problem. I actually had a fuel line rust out and leak on me about a year or two ago. And my rear brake line rusted out too. All that was leaking, so I had to replace all of those lines. So a lot of people will tell you to drop the gas tank on a Tahoe or a Suburban, or like your Silverados, you gotta drop a gas tank or unbolt the box and lift the box up. But on these old trucks in this state, you're not going to be able to unbolt the box on anything because it's just so rusted out. It's just stupid. So I don't want to deal with all the rust, and I've already been in here once before fixing other things. So I don't think like an American, I think like a Japanese person. And I just cut out a piece of the carpet here, and I put a little hole right here so I could look down in there and make sure I got this right. And I cut a little spot so I can get at the fuel pump. I should be able to get this thing out. If I can't, I just got to cut my hole a little bigger. That's how I do things. And oh, wouldn't you know, somebody put some AirTech junk in here. Gee, I wonder how long that lasted. They already put the connector on here. They use waterproof connectors. That's nice. Yeah, this is the line I replaced. I just put a quick connect on here with neoprene line. And I wrapped it in a little bit of 3/8 hose too, so it wouldn't kink, making the bend. And I took all of the steel line out, and I ran another fuel filter with another quick connect on it on the other end of the fuel filter. And a lot of these are too long to actually get in here. I've used this for other things and cut it up for Subarus and stuff. But if you take that little clip out of one of these, if you have one of these, you can try to put this thing in here like this. Stab that all the way in. Try to stab this one all the way in. And I got lucky. See them 4 little tabs in there? I've actually taken a flat screwdrivers and picks, and it actually stabbed in here to get these out before too, and long time ago. These are way too easy to deal with. You probably don't have these on yours if you're going to do this vehicle. This thing should squirt gas all over the place. Get that off of there. Child-proof connector on here. Pull that little gray tab back. I should be able to push this in. Pull this out. Now there's a plastic tab right here I gotta move out of the way. And I can just take a small hammer and a chisel and try to move this stupid lock ring. Man, this has been on here for a long time. Oh, that's really rusted. Holy schmoligans. Wow, that's really rusted. It just bent this lock ring. Wow, there's not much left of this ring. What do I do with the rusty junk? Holy smokes. Try to knock some of this rust out of here. Maybe that'll help. There it goes. Wow. This thing's been in here for a long time, I would imagine. Get that crusty thing off of there. I'm gonna blow this off a little bit. This thing should come right out of here. And I have a lot of gas. Lots and lots of gas. There's a sock in here, and then there's the fuel leveler. So I gotta tip this sideways a little bit to try to get this out. Oh, that's some good looking fuel in there. Wow, look at that. Looks like I need to run this thing dry. Put some new fuel in it. I went ahead and spent the big bucks on a Delphi fuel pump because they're usually the best. The box looks different now, and they're now made in China, so I hope the quality is as good as it used to be. Stop, Airette, Alto, may void warranty, drain, remove, blah, swirly, blah, blah. We don't need that. Got a floaty thing here. The floaty thing goes on the potentiometer. Stick it in the hole here and snap it in like that, and it should do that. I got a connector here I'm not going to use because there's already the replacement connector on it. Some nice waterproof connectors I can keep. And I got the seal here. I went to O'Reilly's and spent way too much money on a fuel pump lock ring. And if you're watching this currently, they gave me a free gift because I'm worthy. It's a magnet for tools, and it's padded. So if you're watching this video currently and you think you're worthy, ask them for your free Thanksgiving Christmas gift. He actually gave me one, and I liked it so much that I walked in the back room and commandeered another one. I'm going to put these on my refrigerator for my kitchen knives. Now before I throw this thing in here, that's so rusted out it's not even round anymore where the tabs are. I'm just going to get a chipping hammer. I'm going to knock some of this rust off of these. Try not to wreck these tabs. I've had it happen before where all that rust will keep a lock ring from going back in. And I'm going to file this down just a little bit. I got a really small file just to make sure there's no big chunks of rust, because there's like an angle here that the lock ring kind of ramps on, and I want to make sure that's clean so I don't have any problems and it goes all the way in. Cleaned all this up. I'll put a little silicone paste on here just so the seal slides in really nice. Doesn't cause me a fuss, hopefully. Might as well put a little paste on these tabs too. Hopefully that'll help them go in. Now there's a tab right here and there's a tab on the fuel pump, so it's kind of hard to screw that up. Hopefully this thing will go in here without a fuss. Push it down by hand and turn it as much as I possibly can. It actually turned too far because this tab keeps it from backing out. They never do though. Don't really need to, but I can put some silicone paste on here. This just pushes right in like that. This connector should be the same as the other one. I had to take the little plastic doojamahiki off of the other pump. You probably won't have one of those. This should be good. Just like magic. Wow, my fuel gauge is actually reading something. Usually it's all the way over full or all the way on E. It's kind of vibrating a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's right. We'll see. Key on, engine not running. I got about 64 psi of pressure. That's right where it should be. Now it's idling in drive. I'm at about 750 RPM, so that's full vacuum, and I'm getting about 55 psi. And I put it in drive, and I put my foot on the brake, and I hit the gas. And it does go up to about 58, 59 pounds. And it's not popping and backfiring anymore. So I'm going to call this a fix. Okay, bye.